Rusty Streetman officially became a council member for the city of Isle of Palms in January of 2020. He tells me what issues he and the city are tackling for this edition of Quintin's Close-Ups. And if you haven't already, subscribe to my YouTube channel and like Quintin's Close-Ups on Facebook. Rusty Streetman, welcome back to Quintin's Close-Ups.
Well, hi, Quintin. I'm happy to be back here. It's been a while since you and I talked directly anyway. We've traded some texts back and forth.
Right.
Occasionally.
That's
good
right.
to be here.
Oh, likewise. Since that time, Rusty, what's new, what's now on the Isle of Palms?
Well, let's see. If you're talking about since that time, I'm assuming you're talking about from the time that I got sworn in as a councilman,
right.
Which was last January the 4th, 2020. And so now that's been about 17 months, so basically a year and a half. Don't know where to start. I mean, there's plenty going on the Isle of Palms, just as there is everywhere else. We had a extremely busy year last year with COVID-19 being in the mix, which really threw us all for a curveball, obviously. I look back over the calendar, and we had 35 city council meetings last year. 35, when we normally would have one per month, basically, and occasionally a special meeting or whatever. But of the 35, 20 of those were either special meetings or emergency meetings, most of them called because of the reaction we had to have to either the governor's orders or guidelines that were coming down from federal or state in regards to some of the COVID-19 issues. And, in making decisions based on what we thought was best for the safety and welfare of not only our residents on this island, but also the visitors that come to this beautiful island that we live on as well. So I hope that answered your question there as succinctly as I could at this point. So if I left something out, let me know.
Okay. Now, going back to early pre-COVID days to right now, were those decisions just in your mind?
Were the decisions just?
Yes, sir.
You mean around COVID?
Yes, sir.
Absolutely. I think they were just. I think what we did as a city council is what any responsible council would do, is to try to make decisions based on the current information we had to, as I said earlier, to protect the safety and well-being of our residents, number one, and also any visitors that come to this island as well. So did we make some mistakes? Yeah, we probably did, but I think every other community did as well, and maybe having to overreact in some circumstances at the time. Possibly there were situations that would come up from time to time where we could look back and say, maybe we could have done this a little bit differently. But we made the decisions that we made, not only as a city council on Isle of Palms, but I think throughout the state and the country in various communities, to do all we could do to protect our constituents and any visitors that may be coming.
And what could you have done differently when it came to making those decisions for COVID, during the COVID time?
Well, it's all it was such a spur of the moment thing. I don't know that you could really look back and say, okay, at that time, what would you have done differently? I guess our struggle out here was, living on a barrier island, of course, we had to make decisions based on whether the beach could be utilized. The public beach, the beach is public, but the access to the beach is where we had to make decisions based on the governor's orders for stay at home, and also giving municipalities at the time the responsibility and the right to make their own decisions. So we were making tough decisions, as were some other communities, as to whether people could be allowed on the beach, given the governor's orders that we were receiving, whether people could actually sit on the beach or would have to keep moving, walking only on the beach. We had that for a while. Solomon's Island had it for a while, in fact, much longer than us. And, you couldn't even have an umbrella or a chair or a cooler on the beach. Those kind of decisions we had to make, and we changed those from time to time, to try to make that a little more beneficial for our residents and our visitors. So we did away with the walking only, and went back to the cooler and the chair and the umbrella. just to try to, make sure that we had more access and more ability for anyone sitting on the beach or visiting the beach, whether they be islanders or off-islanders, would have the right to do that without having to just kind of constantly walk up and down the beach. We did have to make a tough decision back in, I think it was July, when we did close the land side of Palm. And that's been well documented. I mean, that's one of the things that, that probably looking back, when we did that 30-day moratorium, I guess you would say, based on closing down the parking on the land side of Palm, and basically you couldn't park anywhere on Palm at that point. Looking back, I wish we could have done that a little bit differently. But again, at that time there, we were reacting to the information we had. You got to remember, during that period of time, COVID spiked. It spiked again. Everybody thought going into the summer that COVID was going to warm weather was going to, diminish its impact. That didn't happen. In July, it went the other direction. So when we did what we did on the Isle of Palms, which was not at all elitist, as it's been documented in some places, it was not an attempt to privatize the island in any way. We did that based on what we thought was for the safety and well-being, again, of our residents, number one, of this island. That's who we have our responsibility to, being elected officials. Along with that, Wild Dunes, which is a private entity, private neighborhood on Isle of Palms, they closed their entire operations for 30 days. I mean, there was no golfing, no restaurants were open, hotels were closed. There were none of the amenities were open in Wild Dunes. And just, also keep in mind too that everybody was being warned at that point, stay at home. Stay at home. That was where the mindset was right there. Stay to yourself, stay with your family and close friends, but stay at home. And that was kind of the mindset we were operating under as well. County parks were closed, not only on Isle of Palms, but, Mount Pleasant, Charleston County, pretty much everywhere you had closed venues that no one could go to. And I know that probably some of the argument too has been, well, you closed the beach out there for 30 days, but we got all that fresh air and we need to get to the beach. Well, you know what? There's fresh air everywhere, Quintin. If you go outside, whether you live in Isle of Palms, Sullivan's Island, Folly Beach, Mount Pleasant, downtown Charleston, West Ashley, Somerville, there's fresh air everywhere if you want to get out and by yourself and walk around and breathe that air. So, again, we were not in any way trying to be elitist over here or privatize the island when we made some of the tough decisions we made. And I think that 30-day period when we did eliminate parking, I think that's probably one that was our toughest decision. But we made it, we stand by it, and we lifted it as quickly as we could afterwards.
Now, going back to when you all made those decisions to right now, do you think you all were transparent with the public?
Yes. I mean, everything we do, I think, is transparent. I mean, there's no, keep in mind that on city council, pretty much everything is documented. You're on record. You're on video. You have minutes to the meetings. You post your public minutes ahead of time, the day ahead, basically, unless it's a special or an emergency meeting. But even if you have a special or emergency meeting, you still are transparent in that that's a public meeting. Now, sometimes people have to kind of dig for that information. It's not like, it's not like it gets broadcast all over social media. We don't go out after a meeting right away and say, hey, this is what we did in the meeting, but the meeting's on record. And, and if someone desires to, they can go right to the isleofpalms.net website, just as they can any other municipality in the state, and look at what was said and, view it or listen to the record. So I don't think there's any lack of transparency by anyone on our city council. And if there was a lack of transparency in some way, which I don't recall, it would have been purely by accident.
Let me take you to the developing news. Attorney Josh Hoosier of Hoosier Legal Counsel, that is, LLC, filed a lawsuit against the city of Isle of Palms and the Charleston County Court of Common Pleas. The lawsuit seeks a court order requiring public disclosure of electronic messages between the Isle of Palms mayor, and city council members from their private electronic devices. Huser Law Firm has already obtained copies of some of those group text messages. One such group message included the Isle of Palms mayor, even city council members, and the Isle of Palms city administrator discussing city business allegedly over text message while the city council meeting was going on in progress on August 25th, 2020. During that public comment period for citizens, Mayor Jimmy Carroll allegedly texted the group saying, "Shoot me, please." Attorney Josh Huser says this stated that this was an important case. Quote, "The Isle of Palms officials seem to have established a pattern and practice to communicate with each other in a way designed to eliminate or minimize disclosure of their communications to the public. The behavior of the Isle of Palms mayor and city council," he says, "is a slap in the face to the public disclosure laws and the constituents of the Isle of Palms, who deserves more respect and just transparency from elected officials." And of course, no, all of the officials of the Isle of Palms have no comment. But were you guys actually discussing city business on private electronic devices?
No, absolutely not. I look back on the PDFs of that suit, which are clearly posted publicly. I look at that, and what I see is I do see communication through device, but it's mainly things like scheduling special meetings. Are you available for this? Are you available for that? It's the kind of things that we had to have the back and forth with to be able to get everybody on the same page meeting wise. Now, I can't speak for what someone might have had intent wise if there was communication between one party and another party as to what that might have meant. But I can tell you that as a city council member, I'm not aware of, never was involved in, and certainly don't think any of our city council members or the city administrator had any intent at all to have a lack of transparency and communication. I consider, this lawsuit, it will, I don't know where it will go. I don't want to really comment on ongoing litigation, right. because it's not my responsibility to do that. But we'll see how it works out. But I honestly, I don't think that there's much there at all, if anything.
Do you all respect the residents and the visitors of Isle of Palms?
Do we respect them?
Yes, sir.
Absolutely. Listen, I've lived out here for 37 years.
Right.
37 years. Moved here in 1984. I asked my wife, my lovely wife, and my lovely daughters to find a place to live. We moved from Columbia. I got back to the hotel that night after a long day of work and I said, "Find any place to live?" They said, "Yeah, we found an island we want to move to." I said, "What?" They said, "Isle of Palms." Okay. I said, "That's way out there. We only had one way in and out there." But thank goodness they taught me into living to moving out here. I am I'm a South Carolina guy. I'm born and raised in South Carolina. I can tell you that not only speaking for myself, but the many, many people that I know on this island here respect the visitors that come to this island, and we welcome them. They are, they bring us revenue. Particularly, people that come and shop with us or eat in our restaurants. I mean, that's a big boon for us, and it's an important source of revenue. To think and to be characterized by some, not all, that we tend to be elitist or unwelcoming to people is just simply not correct. Most of the people that live on this island are pretty simple people. We have different demographics depending on where they live on the island, but a lot of the people have had their homes for years. Many of them live on fixed incomes. Many of them are not what you would call really wealthy people. They just happen to have lived here so long they were able to buy their home early on when it was all affordable out here, and and now they try to maintain their lifestyle in a way that is island friendly, and I think pretty much the people I know are they don't have a problem with people coming out here during the day, the frequent day visitors that we have. They don't have a problem with them being out here. What we do have a problem with is if they don't leave it like they found it. Basically, pick up after yourself. And I think the great majority of the people that do visit our island do go by that. They're like, they like to they like to make sure they leave the beaches clean, if not cleaner than what they found it. But, we do have people too that do occasionally come out here and they make a mess and we have to pay to clean up behind that or clean it up ourselves. But no, we're not in any way trying to prevent visitors from coming out here. We're not in any way trying to not welcome visitors. It's just respected the Isle of Palms as a residential neighborhood that it is for the most part. We've got one business district down on Front Beach. The rest of this island pretty much is residential with families.
Now, speaking of the businesses, can you share with the public the source of the city's income breakdown?
Well, not specifically on numbers. If you're talking about like hospitality income, tax and that sort of thing. I mean, we do quite well with that.
Okay.
But basically, what we have here on the island is we have. If you look at the homes, for example,
right.
We have about a third of the homes out here that are single family type homes, like myself. We live full time in a house. Okay, about a third of our residents are that way. We have about a third of the homes that are short term rentals. That get rented on a weekly or a monthly basis. Depending on what the setup is, and of course, they generate more taxes, more revenue for us that way. And people tend to come and stay for a week and enjoy the beach, enjoy the restaurants, and the grocery store, the pharmacy, and that sort of thing that we have out here. And then you have about a third of the homes that are second homes for people that have a primary residence in another area, but choose to have a second home in Isle of Palms. Again, that generates a good bit of revenue for us as well because they are paying the higher taxes on that property. We have, I'll just touch on the budget. I mean, we've got some finishing touches going on with our budget, but we're going to have a good year. I mean, hospitality taxes are going to be lower than what we thought they would be, but a lot of that was because of Wild Dunes being closed down. And also because we didn't have a marina restaurant for a while. The lease ran out. And excuse me for a second here.
Sure.
Turn that phone off. I'm sorry.
No
so we didn't have the restaurant for a while, and we now have that underway. But we did a good job, particularly under the leadership of Philip Pounds, our chairman of Ways and Means, to really putting together a very conservative budget last year. And one that we were able to work within the confines of that, and as a result of that, we're going to have a good year budget-wise, and we're looking forward to approving a 2022 budget, which I think is going to be outstanding for us as well. Life is good on Isle of Palms right now. I mean, from a business standpoint, things are getting back to normal. I think the restaurants appear to be booming. The rentals are up. The quality of life out here is good.
Now, what exactly is the tax base right now for the city of Isle of Palms?
What is the tax base?
Yes, sir.
I'm not sure I'm exactly getting what you're talking about there, Quintin. In regards to some of the taxes, I mean, like accommodations tax,
okay,
that sort of thing.
Okay.
Last year, Charleston County decided not to pass along some tax monies to not only Isle of Palms but other municipalities. They withheld that, and that was a sizable amount of money. We now think that they are going to go ahead and go back and make sure the municipalities have what they normally pass through. Charleston County doesn't have to do that; they just historically done it. And as a result of that, I'm thinking that if it works out, we're going to have some money coming back to us in tax funds that was withheld last year, and we'll be able to get that back and use that to help with some of the things that we need to do from a tourist standpoint, from a quality of life standpoint, that you can use tax monies for. We have, our license fees, for short-term rentals, for businesses, all that's on track. I would be hard pressed to get into specific numbers on that because I don't have a budget or anything right here in front of me. But everything is looking very good at this point. And again, we've had some really good leadership on Ways and Means. From Philip Pounds, and also our city administrator Desiree Fregoso and our treasurer Debbie Suggs have done just an outstanding job.
Now, is the budget and the expenditures posted online?
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
ISLEPalms.net. Now, I won't tell you that ISLEPalms.net is the easiest website to navigate sometimes. I get a little confused myself sometimes, but if you know where to go get it, I mean, it's all there.
Okay.
And I'd be hard pressed to say what the keyword may be for the budget, but I would go to ISLEPalms.net. If you want to look at the budget, I would just go up there to the search engine link or whatever, put budget in there. I'm sure a lot of it will pop up. But yes, it's all online, yeah. And we'll have another pass at the budget here. We got city council meeting tomorrow night, so we'll be looking at it again. And we just had Ways and Means last week, which covered it in a very comprehensive way. I mean, we spent probably 30 minutes talking about the budget and Ways and Means last week. So
now let me ask you this. I know you mentioned earlier about Wild Dunes and they're being closed, obviously doing COVID and reopening, and it obviously is a private property on the Alva Palms. Do you know why 3/4 of the entire city budget revenue is actually going to increase the new Wild Dunes Hotel?
Quintin, that simply is inaccurate. We don't fund anything in Wild Dunes in regards to the hotel. That's a private entity. Globe Corporation, I think it's corporation, owns Wild Dunes, and they're the ones that put the money in there to build that hotel. Wild Dunes, I think, was established in 1977. It's probably 7 years before I got here. It was here as a beach and racket club when we first moved here. And it's always been privately owned. Now, Lowe's is the most recent owner. They didn't own it for all of that time. The Finch family owned it. But I don't know where that comes from, that we took city budget funds to fund a hotel. As a matter of fact, we're going to reap the benefits from a hospitality standpoint with the new hotel being open. They will be paying revenues to the city, basically, in terms of hospitality tax and that sort of thing. So that's really kind of a plus for us in regards to the revenue side. Now, can you argue that whether the hotel should have been built or not? I mean, everybody has different opinions about that, but you have to remember too that in the original agreement for Wild Dunes or the Beach and Racket Club, they had every right when they established that property out there to build the amenities that they built, including this latest hotel. So, but getting back to your question about the budget, that is not accurate. I don't know where you got that, but I would really love to see where you found that information or thought you saw that information, because it's simply not an accurate statement.
Well, let me ask you this, Rusty. Would the city be in favor of creating a finance task force to research comparable information, both revenue and expenses, from outside sources to assist the budget process?
I don't think we need anybody from outside to assist us in the budget process. We have audits every year.
Right.
We audit our budget at the end of the year. We have an outside agency that does that. We don't need help putting a budget together. And if anybody that when we do put a budget together, we have a public hearing. We have a public hearing tomorrow night, I think it is, to that residents or anybody can tune in on, in regards to the budget process. We're sound. We don't have a lack of transparency in the budgeting. Everything's right there, line item by line item, and and it's clearly put together. Again, we're like any other municipality. Of the 270 municipalities in this state, all of us at the end of the year, as far as I know, have an auditing process where the auditors come in, they look at the books, and they come back and make recommendations, if any. And typically, what I've seen and experienced, not only on council for the last year and a half, but even before I was on council, when I was attending a lot of the meetings as a citizen, there's no lack of transparency and no lack of competency in regards to that budgeting process.
Let me turn to the search for the fire chief. I know that you are reportedly paying for a consultant to help the city hire a new fire chief. What else do you all expect to do with that?
I'm not sure we're paying for a consultant right now. Right now, what we have in place is the city administrator, Desiree Fregoso, who is the boss. Put a plan in place to have our chief of police, Kevin Cornett, who's doing a wonderful job.
Yes.
Put him in charge of all of public safety, which includes the fire department.
Right.
So we had a process that was in place, which I was not part of, other than having a vote on city council. But with the personnel committee and the public safety committee, went through a joint process of, along with the city administrator, of choosing some candidates to interview and then ultimately making a job offer to. And of course, that came to city council for votes. I supported the decisions of the joint committees, the personnel and public safety, because not being part of that interview process, I said, you know what? These are the people who actually did the interviewing, and that was, again, the joint committee and also the city administrator. So when they came in with their recommendation, I voted for it because they're the ones that had they're the ones that had the knowledge of who they had talked to and what they thought their technical expertise was and their leadership expertise. Of course, I think we know the rest of the story. The person that we initially offered the job to turned it down. Ultimately, couldn't relocate. The second time around, it was offered to one of our training officers, and he ultimately turned it down as well. We had a split vote in council, and I think that was one reason that that things got kind of sideways there in regards to the fire chief, because we had 5 of us voting, one way, 4 voting another way, and there didn't seem to be any real, show of total support for any one candidate. And then that's when Desiree Fregoso made the decision to go the way that she did, which I think is the right decision. So now we're taking a break on that. We're allowing through the rest of this season, allowing Chief Cornett to handle both departments, and he seems to be doing it very competently at this point. And I'm sure that after the season, Desiree will come back to us and make some sort of a recommendation as to how we proceed, and we will take that into account when she does. I will say this: I think the process that we used to try to select the fire chief was the wrong process. The city administrator is the boss of all department heads. So, in my opinion, what needs to happen going forward is the city administrator needs to assemble a panel of experts, that would select candidates, review candidates, and then ultimately she would come to the council with a recommendation that we would vote either up or down.
Okay.
And that's the way it should be. I mean, that's the way I was accustomed to having it in private industry. The boss is the one that does the selection, and you might have to get it approved by the executive board. In this case, the council's the executive board. But we don't need to be making hiring decisions on department heads. The only time that council should be involved in the interview process is when we have to hire a city administrator.
You just probably answered most of my question, but how would you actually change the city code to change hiring in the future, I should say?
Just exactly what I said. I would make sure that the city administrator is the one that has the authority to hire all the department heads, and of course, under her, in this case, Desiree, they would also be filling their positions too, the deputy positions or whatever, with her approval. Ultimately, the city administrator should be the one that handles the process, approves the hiring, comes to city council after a selection has been made or a recommendation has been made, and then asks for us to go ahead and bless that decision, basically. But ultimately, I think the city administrator is responsible for hiring their own department managers, knowing that they're the ones that have to work with them day in, day out, and and that's the way it should be. It shouldn't be day-to-day management from the city council. We set policy, but she runs the city and all the departments within the city.
Now, I know you all are taking a break from the search for a fire chief, but let me just ask you this, and it's a really a silly question, but but
nothing too silly. Nothing too silly.
But on the search for a fire chief, can you, if she is willing, hire Ann Graham and include her in the hiring process and pay her so that you all can actually save some money for the city?
Ann Graham's a wonderful lady. Known her for a long time, and she's retired now.
Right.
And I'm telling you what, she's going all over the place in her camper. I think she's got her kitty with her, and the kitty doesn't like primitive camping. She does the glamping part of it, so it's pretty nice dig she stays in. But I've been watching her some on Facebook and some of the things that she's been posting. I think we'd be hard pressed to get Ann out of the retirement, quite honestly. A wonderful lady, did a great job. She was part of the interviewing process early on, to help screen the applicants from a technical standpoint. So I don't consider the question silly. I just don't think it's something that's going to happen.
Okay. Now, let me return back over to the beach. Obviously, there's been a lot of talk about parking. But let me ask you this, Rusty. Why is there no public parking on 42nd Avenue when there's plans to spend more public funds on a boardwalk?
Well, it's that's the one avenue that we have that we've had reserved for quite a long time now for just resident parking. And we have now 2 handicapped parking spaces down there where anyone with a disability and have the proper decal, that sort of thing, no matter whether they're resident or otherwise, can park there. So that's open to anybody. But we do have that one avenue where residents tend to go down there, many of them with their golf cart, and access the beach there. It's also an access point, too, that has the Moby mat, which is ADA compliant, and it's also wide enough for emergency vehicles to go on and off. So, we've just reserved that particular area there for the residents. We're in the process now of determining what we may do for that for 42nd Avenue in regards to beach access. We've looked at a couple of different options. Do we stay with the Moby mat and maybe just make sure that that's in good shape and not spend as much money, or do we go with the nicer sort of walkover with Ipe type wood? With a couple of bumped out areas there that people that maybe are wheelchair bound could sit and observe nature, overlook the beach, that sort of thing. So we're in the process of looking at all that. No firm decisions been made. So just stay tuned. And that we would have, if we go with one of the options, that's a little more costly. I think that there are some greenbelt funds that are available to offset a part of that. I just don't know if that's what we're going to do at this point. We will listen to our constituents on that, and we'll make a decision as it comes up.
Now, I've also learned that if you want to park and meet your handicapped family member or friend, there's no parking at that particular access. Why?
Because it's considered that they would be able-bodied. The handicapped person, the person with a disability certainly can park there, but if you've got other family members, they can park on Palm. There's plenty of parking out there, on Palm Boulevard, and it's in a very short walk to get down to the beach. It's a half block, right. So that's there's still parking available. It's just a matter of finding a place to park right there between 42nd and 57th, and around 42nd there, and just having that short walk down there to meet your family member.
Does that meet the guidelines for public parking available within 500 feet of the landward terminations of the beach access paths?
I think it does. I don't have a tape measure that to go out there and measure that, but I think it fully complies with what's needed there.
Now, how much state and federal tax dollars along with user fees have been used to replenish a number of areas on the Isle of Palms?
Not sure. We get, there are different grants and different things that we get assistance on from time to time. with the different projects we have going on. But I'd be hard pressed to give you specific amounts. But, what's available for us, I mean, we certainly will try to get, some assistance on. I mean, we have things like our drainage plan and, things like that, Dominion Energy, different things we're working on, that we do have some funds that are available to us in different ways. But it's the same thing that would be available for any municipality.
Now, do you know exactly when 42nd will be reopened to the public?
The boardwalk, I mean, it's open now. The pathway is open. It has what it's called Moby mat. It's a blue mat. You've probably seen it. I know you've been out here some. Right. So, but it's open. It's fully open now in regards to being able to walk down 42nd or bike down 42nd or whatever to be able to get on and off the beach. And it is compliant ADA wise. It's just a matter of we want to make sure that it's nicer than what it was, so it can be even more compliant. And that's why we're looking at different options as to what we could do there to make it better for anybody that's visiting the island that need that access to be able to do that or to get there and get down to the beach or be able to look at the beach. If they decide not to go down to the soft sand. And but that path is open and it's never really been closed, other than the time that we had to close all access paths, back during COVID for that 30 days or so, and that was ordered basically by the governor at that point. But no, it's open.
Okay. Now let me ask you this: you may know, may not know, but why did the city have a new revenue line in their budget for this year as a result of the planned installation of parking kiosks on Palm Boulevard?
Well, it was because that's been in the planning for quite a long time. That was actually planned before I was even on council. There's been discussion for several years about implementing paid parking on Palm, and we quite honestly, pre-COVID, really thought we probably would do that. I mean, that was why it was added as a line item in the budget. And of course, we did back away from that. I mean, COVID, that sort of thing. We decided, well, no, we're not going to pursue that. At this point. So it's still a line item in the budget, and it's still something we probably will consider under the, depending on what kind of outcome we have of the Senate Bill 40 and what we're allowed to do to offset some of the expenses. So I think paid parking as a line item will remain there. It's just that we don't have anything budgeted for that at this point.
Now, obviously, you came on council in 2020. And obviously, you all have talked with Secretary Hall, since that time, as of just recent. But why did the Isle of Palms install more resident only parking signs after the 2015 SCDOT agreement?
We didn't install more signs. The signs have all been approved by SCDOT, and the signs that we have up are basically approved with our 2015 beach parking plan. So it's not a matter of installing more signs. We can't put any sign up on this island without getting SCDOT approval. And we've always done that. Our 2015 parking plan was blessed by SCDOT. It was held as a good piece of work, done by our consultants and our city council at that time. And again, goes back to 2015. And of course, the SCDOT director at that time, I think Ms. Oakley, sent us a glowing report on what we'd done. Christy Hall, the now secretary, was also very favorable about it at that point, and it seemed to indicate that what we had in place was a good path going forward. In fact, I think even during that time they were recommending we do parallel parking on Palm, which we did try last year, and it didn't work. So now we've gone to angled parking now, which seems to be working much better. And we did that with the advice of SCDOT. They asked us to do that. We worked with them. There was a lot of, I won't call it negotiation at all, but there was a lot of discussion between Desiree Fregoso and Ms. Hall in regards to what that would look like. Got several council members involved, got the public involved. We have many residents who have been very involved in the whole angled parking situation. and all of us trying to look at a way to make it more beneficial for people who do visit the island to be able to do so and do it safely. But no, we didn't add more signs, Quintin. It's we do consider the side streets are residential. We have children that play on the streets, that bike on the streets, basketball hoops on the streets. We try to keep them as safe as we can. And, that's because of the residential nature of this island. We do have parking on Palm. We have parking lots down at the city that the city owns that you pay a nominal amount. There's county parking down there. Everywhere else is basically free parking other than those paid parking lots.
Well, let me ask you this. I know SCDOT proposed increased parking on the island, and Secretary Hall backed away from the canceling the 2015 plan. Do you think she will not pursue more parking on the side streets and modify that 2015 plan?
I really don't know what Secretary Hall will do. I don't even want to speculate. I'm hoping that she abides by the 2015 plan that we had in place, because it's something that she certainly was in favor of before when it was first put in place in 2015. If we can live by the 2015 plan that's in place, I think that's a win-win for everybody, quite honestly. We have approximately 1,700 parking spaces on this island. That's 7.5 to 8 times more than DHEC says we really have to provide. But yet somehow, some way, there's a perception that we don't provide any real parking here. There's a lot of parking lots. Now, do you have to pay for some of it? Yes, you do. Down in the city lots, or between 10th and 14th Avenue in the business district. But that's because we, in the wisdom of our earlier councils, they bought those lots and said, let's buy that, and that's where we'll have parking down there for people who want to visit the beach, and we'll have ample parking for the businesses down on the beach that operate on Front Beach, and I think that's a good thing that we made that investment back in the day. Had we not done that and it was privatized, you'd probably have nothing but condos down there right now, or hotels, and no parking for anybody down in that area other than just maybe a little strip down 10th through 14th Avenue. So it was the right thing to do, and at the time, and I think those kind of decisions were wise back in the past. And honestly, I mean, it's one of those things that I look at it. I say, you know what, I'm only one vote, but I could see myself being in favor of not charging for parking at all in those parking lots down there, and then have paid parking elsewhere on the island. That's something to consider. But at this point here, we have free parking on Palm, free parking down at Breach Inlet, free parking on the Finger Avenues between 3rd and 9th, some parking down near the rec center that is public parking, and then we have the paid parking in the city lots.
What do you think SCDOT will do about parking north of 40th Avenue and access to Wild Dunes? Again, I'm speculating, but right now I would say that 42nd through 57th will stay basically the same. You can't park on the beach side because we have a sidewalk there. So people that are walking, running, they have to have access to that path. So you really don't have the room in the right of way there for any parking on that side, but you can on the other side, sort of the landward side. You can park there. It gets a little tight there, because there are some ditches and that sort of thing that's there for drainage purposes. But I don't think that's going to change. I think that will stay the same. Now, will that compromise Wild Dunes in any way? No, because Wild Dunes is a private entity. That's not. It simply is not going to be a situation that I can foresee that there would be anything that would change in regards to ingress, egress in the Wild Dunes for anyone just to go in and park. I can't do it. I'm a citizen, but I can't go to Wild Dunes and park and go down to the beach. Now I can go to Wild Dunes and go to a restaurant. I can go to Wild Dunes and play golf. I can use the amenities, but anybody can do that. But just to go down and park at the property owner's beach club house and go to the beach,
which is about the only place you can find parking down there close to the beach anyway. You can't do it unless you are a homeowner out there.
Now, can you have open parking from Beach Inlet north on Ocean Boulevard and Palm Boulevard without obstructions, perpendicular connector roads, and parking meters?
Yeah, the Ocean Boulevard is a little different. Ocean Boulevard was, of course, owned by the beach company, which basically began everything out here. With J.C. Long, the beach company, and they have covenants in place for Ocean Boulevard for the people who bought those lots there, which basically the covenants say there will not be parking on Ocean Boulevard. Have there been inquiries in the past as to whether we could do something different? Sure, we've asked about it. And not me, but prior to my time on council, there were letters written and kind of efforts made to see if we could open up some parking on Ocean. And it simply has not happened because those covenants, even though they could probably be challenged, I don't know that they could be successfully challenged. So I don't see anything changing in the way of Ocean Boulevard and the ability to park there. The side streets, I think, did you mention the side streets as well? Or there was another part of that question other than Ocean that you asked me.
No worries. Without obstructions, perpendicular.
Oh, you're talking about encroachments, basically.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Well, I mean, that's up to SCDOT. I mean, they're the ones that enforce that sort of thing. If someone has an encroachment that doesn't, that has not been permitted, SCDOT has a right to have that removed. That would be anywhere on this island where there's a right of way. So yeah, I mean that's under the purview of SCDOT, and I think it's also part of the legislation under S40, which will likely be addressed by the governor at some point in the next day or two. But but again, that's SCDOT that makes that decision.
Now, given the population trends, Rusty, do you foresee parking to be an issue for years to come?
Yes, I do. You know what? And I'll tell you why. We have a 5.5 square mile island with a 7-mile beach. The beach is public beach. There's not a private beach on this island. Even Wild Dunes is public beach. You just might have to walk or bike or run to get there. Okay, if you're not a homeowner or resident or a vacationer. But the island's not growing. It is what it is. It's 5.5 square miles, and we only have, and most of it is residential. Outside of the gates of Wild Dunes, most of this island is residential with a very small business district. Surrounding areas, the Tri-County area, we have, I guess the latest census will probably have us somewhere around 900,000 people in the Tri-County area, up from about 850,000. I'm guessing that number is going to be approaching 900,000. Mount Pleasant has been well documented. It's got over 90,000 people now and growing by leaps and bounds. A lot of new homes have been built in Mount Pleasant. A lot of expansion over there, up and down Highway 17, Rifle Range Road. A lot of hotels in Mount Pleasant. I think there's over 30 hotels and motels over there, that have visitors, and all of them want to come to the beach, at least for a day. And I think parking is going to be an issue going forward. I think what we have to do is find smart ways that we on this island can accommodate parking, because the visitors are going to come. They love the beach. Don't blame them. And we want them to have a good time when they get here. But we have to be in a partnership sort of agreement with local communities too, to work together on this thing. Because not everybody can come to the beach at the same time. It's one of those things where, if you're going to go to the beach on a busy summer weekend, you probably need to get up really early and get to the beach and find yourself a parking space, or you may not get one. If you wait much later, you're going to be waiting in traffic for over an hour just to get to the beach. And by the time you get to the beach, you probably aren't going to be able to find much of a place to park anyway, unless maybe you go to one of the paid parking areas. So that's not going to stop. Population growth is not going to reverse itself in this area. It's a beautiful part of the world. People want to move here and live here. People want to raise their families here. And I'm talking not only Isle of Palms, I'm talking I'm talking to Mount Pleasant, beautiful area there, a lot of nice people in it. I have a lot of friends in Mount Pleasant, and we're not. It's not going to stop being an important destination, and we know that Isle of Palms is going to be a big part of that. It's just simply we've got to find ways, smart ways going forward that we can accommodate as much parking as we can that will allow us to preserve the integrity of the residential character of this island, but also be accommodating to visitors, to be complimentary of our businesses, the restaurants, the grocery stores, the pharmacies, and those type of businesses that we have that are very successful on this island. We want them to continue to be successful, and we want to have people visit us and stay with us, whether it be for a day or for a week or whatever, and enjoy themselves, but be able to do so in a safe atmosphere.
Now, last question for you, Rusty. I know that speaking of Mount Pleasant and speaking of obviously, all that traffic is going to be coming, this weekend because of Memorial Day, as a matter of fact. And I know,
it'll be busy.
Oh yeah, I'm sure there'll be people out there today too on a Monday. But obviously, Carter is coming to the city with the beach shuttle. I know Mount Pleasant Mayor Will Haney offered to pay $8,000, half of the cost of making the summer beach shuttle fare free. Will the Isle of Palms actually match that?
Yes, Desiree Fregoso, our city administrator, made the decision to pay the other $8,000 on behalf of the Isle of Palms. Then there's $8,000. I think the cost of the Carter shuttle has been estimated for the weekends and for the holidays to be $24,000. So the Carter funding's providing $8,000, Mount Pleasant $8,000, Isle of Palms $8,000. So that would cover that, so that it would be free during that period of time. I will say this, and I will say this on behalf of the island. This is not sour grapes in any way. We don't have any Carter bus routes to Isle of Palms. Haven't had for many, many years. Okay, but yet we contribute about $250,000 to Carter each year because of the 1% tax that was added, for transportation, that sort of thing. So that goes into their coffers, which is tax dollars, but yet we don't have a Carter route out here. So when you really look at it, Isle of Palms actually contributes a good bit. I mean, what we've generated in revenue through that tax, it really supports Carter in a big way with that $250,000. And now we're pitching in another $8,000. And we don't have a single resident that basically uses Carter over here because we don't have a Carter route. So I think we've not only done well by chipping in the $8,000, but we've actually, we continue to, do our part to support Carter in general with the, with the revenue that's generated each year. So, we're looking forward to see how that works. I know they did a trial in the off season last year, and there was mixed results on it, but it did get utilized some. But it's just the first step in being able to get people to the beach. There will be people coming to the beach, I suspect, that have never. Some of the children that have never even seen a beach, and that's a good thing. That's something that that everybody in their life needs to have the opportunity to do. So I hope people will take advantage of it, and I hope people will be respectful of the whole effort that we have to do that. And it's something that we are happy to partner with Mount Pleasant and Carter on, and we want it to be successful. So that's pretty much where that is, and that's going to begin this weekend. And before you get away, can I make a plug on a couple of other things that we got?
Please go for it. Please go for it.
Do you mind?
Sure, go for it.
Okay, just want to let you know that we have, even though we dealt with a lot of issues this past year, were COVID related, that sort of thing. I have to say that I'm really proud of the efforts that were made by the council, the current council, as well as the council that was sitting before I got here. They've done a lot of work, and we're doing a lot of work to make this a better island to live on, a better island to visit. We have the Marina Dock Rehabilitation Program going on. That's going to be completed this year. It's going to be beautiful docks that will be accessed by the public. Residents, visitors alike, anybody boating in, they're going to see brand new docks down there. The city owns that marina, so we had an obligation to make sure it's beautified. It's been long overdue. We've got that going on. Drainage, we've got $3.5 million invested in drainage to get storm water and tide water off the island. That's going to be a slow process, but a steady process. You're going to see an awfully, an island that, is going to be able in the future to get the water off quickly. And we completely redid the public safety building to the tune of $6 million. It had been a problematic building before that had all kinds of issues. We redid that, got that open. Marina restaurant, we have we have tenants that have bought into that restaurant with a new lease. Marker 116 LLC is the group. They're local people that live on the island. They're putting $2.5 to $3 million of their own money in there to rehabilitate that restaurant and get that open. Hopefully we'll get that open sometime late in the year. That's a triple net lease, and it's good. It's good terms to have. We're working with Dominion Energy on undergrounding some electrical. We've got 4 projects that we'll do over the next 3 years, and that will be good to get some more power underground, so that if we have storms, we won't have the issues that we've had from time to time when you have a storm and you have power outages. This should help with that, so that will be happening. Strategic planning's in process. We've got a meeting on that this week. We kicked that off last year. The city has not had a strategic plan in the past. I'm proud of the work we're doing on that. And, and we've got, money budgeted or earmarked in our budgets to improve our access paths and that sort of thing going forward too. And we also have a public dock and green space that at some point, we get the litigation resolved down there. That's going to be an area that our residents and visitors can go to and have some free parking and an opportunity to look at wildlife, be on a public dock overlooking the intercoastal waterway and have a boardwalk that goes around the entire marina area. That's going to be beautiful as well. And one other thing I won't say it, I'd be remiss if I didn't. I know we've had all this talk about the legislation and everything else going on. S40. I know you didn't really ask me about that, but I have to give a shout out to Representative Joe Bustos in regards to his support on home rule, which I think is one of the things that we should consider sacred in South Carolina. And honestly, I'm on the record, along with the rest of our council, to be opposed to S40. It most likely will be law, but we are opposed to it, and we went on record to do that. And we did it because we really do think this, it singles out barrier islands, different from other municipalities in regards to parking, and it specifically violates home rule and the right of local municipalities to make decisions within their own neighborhood. It singles us out. So, and that's it. There's no animus that I have towards politicians that voted for S40. Many of them are friends of mine. They simply did what they think their constituents want them to do. But I do think had they given it deeper thought as to what implications that has on home rule, then that would have been something that you'd think would give them pause to say, wait a minute, that's one of the tenets we have in South Carolina that we've lived by for quite a long time. And if we pass this as is without vigorous debate, we're basically going against what we considered a good statute in home rule. And again, no animus towards anybody who voted the way that they think their constituents want them to vote, because an elected official, that's what you do. But I do think that in this case, this is bad legislation. So there you go.
Rusty Streetman, thank you so much for your time. And again, welcome back to Quintin's Close-Ups, and I hope to have you back on again.
Quintin, I'd be happy to get on here with you anytime. Thank you, my friend.
Thank you. I appreciate it.